In today's video, we are going to look into the recode command. And just to give you an idea, the recode command is used as the name suggests, recode the the coding of the variable. So let's say you have a categorical variable and you want to convert, you have a continuous variable and you want to convert into categorical variable. So you definitely need to categorize or code them. Although you can do that using generate and replace command, but this recode command is more robust in the sense that you can easily convert the continuous variable into categorical variable and recode them and label them. And if there is already a variable and you want to convert it into change the coding of the variable, let's just say there is a questionnaire and there is a item that need to be coded reverse, or what we call reverse coding. This command comes in handy in that case. So before we start, the do file and the data file that I'm going to use in this lecture, the link for these files is given in the description. So let's load the data, and we have this data set where we have wage, age, race and sex. And if I can give you an idea of the data, we have these three categorical variable. If you remember, these are coded blue, so it means they are encoded. I would give the link for my encode video in the description. And this is a continuous variable. So let's just say if we look currently at the sex variable, we would see that female is coded 1 and male is coded 2. But for some reason we want to perform, let's just say, regression, and for some reason we want female to have the value of 0 and male to have a value of 1. This is how typically we code a dummy variable, zeros and ones. So what we do is we start with the command name recode, write the variable name, then the old code or the old value, and what would be the new value. So if we want 1 to be replaced with 0 and 2 to be replaced with 1, if I execute this, you would see that where there was female, where there's 1, it is now become 0, and where there was 2, it is now being replaced with 1. But at the same time, because we already had value labels, so the value labels had been messed up because 1 was for female and there was no value label for 0. So now 0 is displayed without any label, and 1 is displayed with a female label. And if I can just show you the tab sex variable, you would see we have zeros and female, and then we can see these value labels. But this is the wrong way of doing this conversion. The right way would require us to learn two new options with this recode command. The first one is the generate option, and the second one isn't the option but rather a syntax where we can have a label. But let's focus on the generate option. So let's just re-import the data, because by recode we would destroy the original data. So let me re-import the data. Now we have the data in our original shape. So we recode sex, we use the same syntax, but now we are going to use generate sex1. This would generate a new variable called sex1, right? And it won't have any labels, but the values are coded correctly. And if I can show you the tab sex1, the old variable and the new variable, you would see that previously where there was 1, it is now being coded as 0, and 2 is now being coded as 1. But we do not have value labels, and we would definitely want to have male and female value labels. For that, let's generate another variable called sex2. And how do we add value labels? In the same command, you instead of running this command, you could have run this command and have value labels and recoding and generate a new variable within just one line of code. So recode the variable name, then within parentheses for each coding, we would use a set of parentheses. One, the new coding, the old coding is equal to the new coding, and then the value label that we will assign to 0. Then 2 should be converted into 1 and the value label. And if I execute this, you would now see, although they are coded similarly as sex1, but we do have value labels with them. And you can look at these variables using this. You can compare it with your original variable. So sex and sex2, they both are coded correctly, right? So females are still females and males are still males. And if I can show you the values without the labels, you can see that 1 is now coded as 0 and 2 is now coded as 1. So this was the way we convert the coding of an already existing variable, already existing categorical variable that already have value labels. But what if we had a continuous variable, say wage, and we want to convert it into categorical variable? And at the same time, let me also show you the other options that we can use with Recode. So there are rules. So we can either use one number. So 3 will be coded as 1. So this is how we would write it. Or we can say 2, or all the missing values would be coded as 9. Or we can give a range. So 1 through 5 should be coded as 4. So this would be the new coding and this would be the old codes, right? And we can also write the term non-missing. So all non-missing or missing would be coded as any number that you give. So here we are going to use a range of values. So if we look at the summary of wage, we can see that the mean is 9.9 and minimum is 3 and maximum is 36. So we start with 3. So we say that all the wages that lie between 3 and 14 should be coded as 1 and they should be labeled as low income category. Then between 15 and 26 should be coded as 2 and they should be called as medium income category. And 27 to 36 is the maximum value, should be coded as 3 and they should be labeled as high income, and we generate a new variable, income categories. So we convert our continuous variable into a categorical variable. So if I can just show you from here, and just to recheck, it's always good to look at the tab command, and we can see 3 to 13 are coded as low income, 15 to 25 are coded as medium, and 28 onwards are coded as high income category. Now remember, whenever we are going to code, this recode command would also generate a value labels, right, or the name for value labels, and we can access that label directory using label dir. So we can see that income category which is generated from here. So you can assign this value labels, this category value labels, to any other variable if you want. Then these other were generated using other commands that we used previously. Remember, I showed you that minimum value for wage was 3, but instead of writing 3 explicitly, we could have said minimum, or the maximum was 36 and we could have said maximum. So these commands are similar, except I have replaced minimum value with the term minimum, and what Recode would do, it would take wage and find the minimum value, and it would take this range, the minimum value, to 14 and categorize it as low, and similar it would do it over here. Okay, just to give you an idea that these two commands are similar, we can see that in both income category 1 or income category 2, the coding is correct. Then we can use missing and non-missing values. So we let's just create some missing values, because this wage variable do not have any missing values. So let's replace wage should be equal to missing in row 1 to 10. And now recode, but now let's just say there were some individuals who didn't disclose their income. So there might be individuals in our survey that might not wish to disclose their income. So these missing values should be categorized as for, and they should be labeled as non-disclosed. So we can use missing or non-missing. Then we can have this option of else. So what we say is recode wage starting from minimum till 14, code it as 1, and value label is low income, but anything else should be equal to 2, and it should be labeled as other than low income. That doesn't make sense, but anyhow. Further, we can recode multiple variables in same command. So in this case, I want to code wage and age, although in this case it won't make sense. But if there are questions, and these questions, in a questionnaire, in a survey questionnaire, and these questions are, say, a Likert scale, so they all would have same categories and same value labels: agree, disagree, highly disagree, and so on and so forth. So we can, in that case, we can use a single recode command on all those items. So recode wage, age, so we give the range, label, then range, label. But whenever you are going to use multiple variable names, you should use this label option, where you would explicitly tell Stata that these new labels should be stored in this label. This should be the new label name. So if I can show you the label directory, you can see that this new combined recode is generated over here, right? This is the label name that we have assigned. We could have done this using rather than prefix, right? So let's say recode all these two variables, but the new variable that you generate should have a prefix of recode underscore. So that way I know which one is the original variable and which one is the recoded variable. But again, remember, whenever you are going to use multiple variables, you are going to use the label option, right? So both those variables are recoded, but we have the recode as prefix, and you can see these variables look identical because I have used the similar command except for the prefix function in this case. And lastly, if we have some questionnaire, rather I should import a questionnaire, a sample questionnaire that I have, and you can see there are different items and they are already value labeled. They have a value behind them, and then there is a value label. But somehow this question 1 should be reverse coded, right? This question was asked reversely, and now we should reverse code it to perform further analysis. So what we want is anything that was 1 should now be called 5. So what is 1? If I can find strongly disagree. So sorry, I misspelled the value label, so I have quickly corrected them. So wherever there is value 1, which is currently coded as strongly disagree, we want to convert those 1s into 5s, and we want to label them as strongly agree. So just the reverse of what we currently have. So I would name this Q1 reverse, and let's just uncheck the other variables so we can compare them side by side. So this is Q1, it isn't generated. Let me drop the previous one and regenerate it. Okay, so now it had been generated, and now if we compare this, our Q1 where we had disagreed, now it is being reversely coded and the opposite value had been given. Or we can just compare them using tab command. So 1 is now 5, right? So thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned something from this. Do subscribe to this channel and do hit the bell icon.